What is a UFO? With careful analysis, many UFOs have a conventional explanation. Some turn out to be natural phenomena, comets, meteors, strange clouds, even the aurora borealis. Some UFOs are actually misidentified aircraft. This UFO, photographed over Catalina Island, remained unidentified until advanced computer analysis showed that it is probably a small airplane. Civilians living near military bases occasionally catch glimpses of aircraft so secret that the government won't even admit they exist. Some of these aircraft could easily be mistaken for a UFO. Some UFOs are fakes. This photo looks convincing, but the photographer admitted that it's actually a hubcap thrown into the air. But some UFOs appear to be intelligently guided physical objects with no conventional explanation. They're usually sighted in the air, but sometimes on the ground. Their behavior often suggests advanced technology, and many researchers believe that some UFOs may be extraterrestrial spacecraft. Supporting this idea, some UFOs are sighted with beings that could be called aliens.
In the summer of 1991, I was living at the top of Topanga Canyon, which is outside of Los Angeles, California. One evening, I was out on the balcony with two friends, and we saw a strange, hovering red light in the sky. It appeared first by itself, and then there was a second light, which appeared alongside the first, followed by a third light appearing on the other side.
When I got out of my car and walked underneath the object, I had a tingling sensation all over my body. My kneecap and my wrist started aching, and I could tell that there was a force that was causing some kind of a problem. At that point, I realized that this was probably not a water tank.
I was living in the Angeles National Forest north of Los Angeles, and I stayed home from work one day, and about 10 a.m. I was sitting on my patio, and I saw three saucer-like objects go by in the air so fast, it was just like shoo, shoo, shoo. And it was something I'd never seen, something going that fast. About 3 seconds later, there were three fighter jets chasing them. The amazing thing was that the fighter jets were going their full speed, but seemed to be standing still compared to the speed of the saucer-like objects.
I saw in the distance a UFO floating along, probably a mile away from me, over these fields of wheat, emitting a very large beam of light, just incredibly bright, just illuminating like day the area it was going. It was so bright. And then there would be two, and they'd be like this, and they'd go like that, and they'd be all over. And I stood up. I was sitting down. I stood up and looked at it, and the lights went off. But I could see its outline. And it started to come toward me. It kind of turned like this, and it came toward me.
As we're driving down the road, I was asleep in the front seat, and all of a sudden I woke up, and there's this bright light behind us, and we both assumed it was a truck. It stayed right on our tail, and we couldn't, it wouldn't pass us or anything like that, so my wife just started speeding up, and when I looked over, the speedometer was pegged at 100 miles an hour, and this thing was right behind us, and I looked back, and there was no headlights. It was just one big massive light, and our headlights were just about out. We couldn't hardly see anything. They were so dim in comparison. The next thing that we know, we are on the side of the road at a dead stop, and it's pitch black. It was a moonless night, and there was absolutely nothing around anywhere. And we went from 100 miles an hour to a dead stop with no reference of time in between. There was no braking or anything. It was just it was an instantaneous transition. It just seemed like we weren't supposed to talk about it. And since it was something that was so bizarre, we didn't feel that anybody would believe us anyways.
Visual sighting is the most common kind of UFO encounter. Sightings almost always occur by surprise, so most witnesses are unprepared to take photos. Nonetheless, some remarkable photos have been taken over the years, as well as film and video footage. Some photos have been subjected to laboratory testing for fraud, and while some frauds have been detected this way, other photos appear to be absolutely genuine. UFOs show up on radar. In Belgium in 1990, 4 military radars confirmed a UFO sighting. 2 F-16 jets pursued the object, also tracking it on radar, but they couldn't keep up. One jet's radar showed the UFO descending from an altitude of 10,000 feet to 500 feet in just 5 seconds, accelerating fast enough to kill a human pilot. Belgian military officials admitted they could not explain these events. UFOs also leave physical evidence. Researchers have compiled over 4,000 so-called trace cases from around the world. Physical traces can include rings of scorched vegetation, indentations in the ground, even fragments of strange metal. UFOs also seem to have dramatic temporary effects on physical objects. For example, some witnesses report that their cars or home appliances stop functioning during a UFO encounter, but start working again when the UFO disappears. Some researchers surmise that something about UFO propulsion may affect electrical systems. UFOs may also be related to strange cases of livestock mutilation and crop formations. Since at least 1967, hundreds of cattle and other animals have been found dead and mutilated on the open range. Typically, one or both eyes, one or both ears, tongue and jaw tissue, and various internal organs have been cut away with surgical precision. Researchers have determined that the cuts seem to be made with high heat, possibly by a laser. In cases throughout the United States and Canada, as well as Brazil, Australia, and many other countries, there is never a sign of human activity around the carcasses, nor is there any explanation for the technical precision of the cuts. In many cases, however, witnesses report seeing lights in the sky over areas where carcasses are later found. And a few witnesses have even said they've seen animals being lifted, as if by levitation, into a waiting UFO. Contrasting with the gruesome animal mutilations, beautiful pictograms have been mysteriously appearing in the crop fields of many nations, especially southern England. In the early 1980s, simple circles were the norm, but each year they've become more elaborate and more numerous. One by one, conventional explanations have failed. In October of 1991, 2 gentlemen came forward saying they had hoaxed the whole thing, a story that made front-page news. But their claim quickly fell apart. The sheer number of formations would be impossible for 2 people to accomplish, and besides, these 2 gentlemen could not produce even one formation that matched the subtle details of the real thing. Meanwhile, 1991's pictograms were more elaborate than ever, none more astounding than the Barbary Castle formation, which appeared the morning after a night of lights in the sky. Colin Andrews, a leading expert on crop formations, explains.
The story begins really with regard to this tremendously large and impressive marking on one summer's night when a number of people traveling along a road south of the town of Swindon saw a flash of light in the sky. It was an orange flash of light. Lightning was not in the vicinity. The cumulonimbus clouds associated with storms was not there, and they had their attention drawn to the sky due to the fact there was this bright flash of light. From that same spot in the sky came a beam of light with rippling edges, rippling veil, if you will, of golden light from the sky to the ground. At the end of the golden beam of light manifested a golden ball at ground level. Now that ball was seen to discharge, if you like. It faded away, and this same sequence occurred again within 15 seconds, 2 flashes of light, 2 curtains of golden rippling light, 2 golden balls manifesting at ground level. We were able, by simple triangulation methods, to ascertain where that aerial phenomena literally reached ground level. And the pattern you've just seen was precisely that spot, that night, that pattern arrived in that field. If we consider only that one pattern, we have to be looking at a phenomenon here which is of the greatest importance to all of us. What you're looking at there is the Mandelbrot set. Now that is a universal mathematical constant. It's the most complex arithmetic graphic form known to man. We've only been able to produce that in graphic form via computers in recent times, in recent years. It's a highly complex mathematical universal constant. Now, we were looking at that pattern, and one would have to say, if that pattern ever arrived on our planet, we would have something to consider, because that equates to the point at which order actually breaks down into chaos. That is the arithmetic graphical form which represents that state between order and chaos. Indeed, the very state which the indigenous people have been suggesting we have arrived at. And there it is. That is the Mandelbrot set. That arrived in a wheat field south of Cambridge in England just a few months ago. That indeed is the Mandelbrot set. Now that is the only graphic form which we certainly can support scientifically and have knowledge of its meaning. If that actually represents in the cereal crops of our planet what we understand is representative of the mathematical equation, then indeed those indigenous people for the first time have something to focus our attention upon.
Nearly all UFO researchers believe that a small group of military and government leaders have successfully hidden the reality of UFOs from the general public. Some researchers feel that the so-called UFO cover-up may be the biggest, best-kept secret of all time.
Some of the most relevant information that's been declassified by our own government comes out of the Freedom of Information Act documents from the Central Intelligence Agency, the FBI, the Air Force, and DARPA, Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency. These agencies, in disclosing their supposedly classified data, have made it very clear that our government's been profoundly interested in following the, I guess, activities of UFOs over the years, incursions of Strategic Air Command bases, Falcon Bridge, Malmstrom, Loring, all over the country, 1975, over Tehran in 1974, over Cuba in 1967, over Alaska, over Hawaii, all over the country, and even landings at Kirtland Air Force Base at New Mexico. And these aren't coincidences, and the fact the government acknowledges these, along with such things as landing as the Bentwater Air Base in England, United Kingdom, suggests very clearly that the government knows what's going on, and they're just withholding their data because they don't want to scare the public.
If the cover-up is real, it may well have begun in 1947 at Roswell Army Air Force Base in New Mexico. On July 8, 1947, Roswell's public information officer, Lieutenant Walter Haut, issued a press release in which he said the military had recovered wreckage of a flying saucer that had crashed on a nearby ranch. The story caused an immediate sensation, but one day later, it was retracted. The military now said that the wreckage was a weather balloon. Oddly, that wreckage was secretly flown to Wright Field in Dayton, Ohio, and was never seen again. And there the story might have ended. But in the late 1970s, several witnesses to the so-called Roswell incident decided to talk. One of them, Major Jesse Marcel, had been Roswell's intelligence officer and the first military man on the crash site. He had been familiar with all kinds of aircraft, rockets, balloons, even the top-secret devices of his day. He had handled a great deal of the Roswell wreckage, and in his words, it was nothing from this earth. Marcel, in fact, believed that he had handled pieces of an extraterrestrial spacecraft. From 1947 on, UFO sightings were so prevalent that the CIA became concerned. In January of 1953, they convened the so-called Robertson Panel to assess the national security implications of UFOs. The panel quickly reached two conclusions. On one hand, there was no evidence of a direct threat to national security from UFOs. On the other hand, there was a threat of public mass hysteria if UFO reports continued unchecked. Therefore, the CIA recommended an immediate policy of debunking with the goal of reducing public interest in UFOs. Captain Edward J. Rappelt, then chief of the Aerial Phenomena Branch of the Air Technical Intelligence Center, explained the new policy this way. We're ordered to hide sightings when possible, he said. But if a strong report does get out, we have to publish a fast explanation, make up something to kill the report in a hurry, and also ridicule the witness, especially if we can't figure an answer. We even have to discredit our own pilots. The question remains, how much was really known about UFOs and who knew it? Recent disclosures indicate that an elite group inside the government may have known a great deal. In 1984, an undeveloped roll of 35mm film was anonymously sent to UFO researchers Bill Moore and Jamie Chandra in California. When developed, the film showed 8 pages of an alleged top-secret document. The title page read, Briefing Document, Operation Majestic 12, prepared for President-elect Dwight D. Eisenhower. The document described MJ-12 as a super-secret committee that dealt with alien-related information. It said that the Roswell incident was a genuine UFO crash recovery, complete with alien bodies. It described other recoveries as well, and said that the fact of alien intelligence on the Earth was a matter of extreme importance, requiring absolute secrecy. The document was made public in 1987 and set off a storm of controversy. Skeptics immediately branded it a hoax, but other researchers studied it in detail, looking for signs of fraud. To their surprise, no obvious fraud could be found. Even tiny details of history and style checked out. Nonetheless, the verdict on MJ-12 remains ambiguous. The document may indeed be a hoax, but a hoax this good could only come from an inside source. Who would want to release such a document, and why? So far, nobody knows for sure. Many researchers believe that secret government knowledge of UFOs goes far beyond the recovery of crashed saucers. In recent years, alleged eyewitnesses have reported direct face-to-face meetings between military personnel and live aliens. Other witnesses claim that the government is in possession of alien technology. In just a few moments, you will hear the direct testimony of 2 such witnesses. The first witness is a man we'll call Bill, formerly an Air Force tech sergeant with a top-secret clearance. In 1965, Bill was stationed at Peterson Field in Colorado Springs. One day, he was assigned as a steward aboard an airplane with a secret destination. The plane flew to Washington, D.C., where it picked up a 2-star general. It then flew to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base and picked up an 8-man civilian science team. Finally, it flew to Alamogordo, New Mexico, arriving in the evening. The next morning, Bill and the others got on a bus and drove until they reached a box canyon. Here's how Bill describes what happened next.
We went on in. All of a sudden it opened up, and here's Quonset huts, hangars, and a flight line. And we pull up there, and then the special team, the science team, got off and went over to cross the ramp, and here is a UFO sitting on the ramp. Here are 2 beings standing there, okay, that are communicating, however they're communicating. The general was a little over 6 foot tall, and the 2 individuals were equal in height to him. They had flight suits on that were a silver gray, okay, they didn't have helmets or anything like that. They were long-fingered, right? Okay, 5-fingered, but they were long-fingered, very delicate, very slim, okay, not a definition in hip, waist-hip type situation. Uniform was 1 piece, boot all the way up. We saw the demonstration as far as the flying of the craft, hovering, disappear, come back, virtually no sound. From there, we went back, very hush-hush. That's the last we heard of anything.
Could it be that government personnel have not only met live aliens, as Bill says, but have even acquired alien technology? In 1989, a man named Bob Lazar appeared on Las Vegas television claiming that he was a physicist hired by the Office of Naval Intelligence to study an alien spacecraft held at a secret location near Groom Lake, Nevada. Since 1989, researchers have tried to either prove or disprove Lazar's sensational claims, but have failed to reach a verdict. Meanwhile, Lazar sticks by his story, and with the passage of time, it seems increasingly likely that he's telling the truth. What he says is astounding.
Between December of '88 and April of '89, I worked as a senior staff physicist in what has to be the most secret project in history. My place of work was a facility at an area known as S4 on the Nellis Air Force Range in central Nevada. Area S4 is located approximately 15 miles south of the infamous Area 51 installation at Groom Lake, where the U-2 and SR-71 spy planes were developed. For the duration of my employment at S4, I was paid by the United States Navy. I had at least partial views of the 9 different discs out at Area S4, but the one I'm going to describe to you now is the one in which I not only saw 2 of the 3 interior levels, but I also saw it fully functional in flight. This particular disc appeared to be in excellent condition, and because of its sleek appearance, I nicknamed it the Sport Model. The Sport Model is about 16 feet tall and 40 feet in diameter. The exterior skin of the disc is metal, which is the color of unpolished stainless steel. The Sport Model sits on its belly when it's not energized. The power source is a reactor, which uses element 115 as a fuel and uses a total annihilation reaction to provide the heat which it converts to energy, making it a compact, lightweight, efficient onboard power source. As you can see, the hatch is located on the upper half of the disc with just the bottom portion of the door wrapping around the center lip of the disc. The interior level of the disc is divided into 3 levels. The lower level is where the 3 gravity amplifiers and amplifier guides are located. The reactor is located directly above the 3 gravity amplifiers on the center level and is in fact centered between them. The reactor is similar to this half-scale model. The element 115 is machined into triangles like this and is then inserted into the reactor. The center level of this disc also houses the control consoles and seats, both of which were too small and too low to the floor to be functional for adult human beings. My job in this program was to be part of a back engineering team. Back engineering is the act of taking a finished product and tearing it apart to find out what makes it tick. The goal in this program was to see if the technology of the disc could be duplicated with Earth materials. As part of my indoctrination into the program at S4, I would randomly be taken into a small room which contained a table, a chair, and 120 or so briefings in blue folders. I'd be left there to read for varying amounts of time, usually about half an hour. These briefings contained a wide spectrum of information, mostly relating to aliens and alien technology. These reports appeared to be an overview of alien information which can be used to brief scientists from any field about the scope of the whole project, and not just their specific field of endeavor. In May of 1987, some scientists took an antimatter reactor to an underground blast facility on the Nevada test site to perform an experiment. Unfortunately for them, their experiment required them to cut the reactor open, which resulted in their deaths. This explosion was explained to others at the test site as a previously unannounced low-yield underground nuke test. I was hired in December of 1988 to replace one of these men. The S4 installation is built into the mountain, and the 9 hangar doors are angled at about 60 degrees. These doors are covered with a sand-textured coating to blend in with the side of the mountain and the desert floor. The hangar that housed the Sport Model was like a typical airplane hangar with the exception of the angled doors that I mentioned before. The hangar was equipped with typical tools and extensive electronic equipment. It also had a machine with an X-ray emblem on it and an overhead crane rated at 20,000 pounds. Equipment in this hangar was marked with a black number 41 with a white circle around it. It was outside of this hangar that I saw the Sport Model tested.
Probably the most amazing thing about Area 51 is the fact that this is literally the only place in the world where you can go out and actually see flying saucers on a timetable basis. You can literally go out there on a Wednesday night between about 7 and 1 a.m. and you'll see these things flying up and down the valley. It's absolutely amazing. On even a bad night, you'll have 10, 11, 12 sightings. On a good night, and I've been out there with friends of mine camping, on a good night, the sky will just rip open with these things. You'll see anywhere between 20 to 40 objects in a night testing over the base for anywhere from 15 minutes to 45 minutes at a time. You'll see these objects flying up and down the valley. We've had people where these objects have flown right over their heads as they've gotten out, fumbled for their cameras and then shot away. Area 51 is the single most amazing thing because, first off, we know the military's got them. Second off, in their pure arrogance, they really don't care whether or not we see them or not. And third off, it's much easier to make us look crazy because we're just civilians out there than it is to test this stuff over their own land, over Nellis Air Force Base, where experts or people that have something to do with a project or security personnel can actually come forward and expose this project. But I'm hoping that Area 51 is going to be the camel's nose under the tent, that enough people are going to go out there and start seeing these things, enough people who are skeptical about it, who are going to see these things for themselves and realize, by God, there's something there, because this is the singular most important scientific advance in the history of the human race.
If at least some people in government know that UFOs are real, why don't they just tell us? One reason may be that the UFO situation remains puzzling even to the most knowledgeable experts. Indeed, if some UFOs are alien spacecraft, as many researchers believe, it may be that no one really knows who these aliens are or what they want. Ample reason for a cover-up. How many government officials would want to risk looking ignorant and powerless in the face of something as momentous as the discovery of alien intelligence right here on planet Earth? Another justification for the secrecy may be the possibility of social upheaval. In 1979, a former CIA official named Victor Marchetti published an article titled "How the CIA Views the UFO Phenomenon." In it, he theorized that all major governments are committed to hiding the fact of alien intelligence from the public, for fear that disclosure might, in his words, erode the foundations of Earth's traditional power structure. He went on to say that political and legal systems, religions, economic and social institutions could all soon become meaningless in the minds of the public. Civilization as we know it could collapse into anarchy. Such extreme conclusions are not necessarily valid, he said, but they probably accurately reflect the fears of the ruling classes of the major nations. The Robertson panel report, discussed earlier in this program, demonstrates that our government has long considered UFOs to be a national security issue. Is public hysteria their only concern, or is there more? Millions of citizens believe they have had a close encounter with an alien. Some say the experience was wonderful. Others feel traumatized. In these accounts, aliens of many kinds are described. But a high percentage of unpleasant encounters, also called abductions, seem to involve a particular kind of alien known as a gray. Does this mean that some aliens are dangerous? Assuming that the abduction experience actually involves alien encounter, the alien's intent is by no means clear. Does anyone in our government have the answer? So far, we don't know. For most citizens, the challenge posed by UFOs and aliens is a personal one. Depending on what we already believe, adjusting to the arrival of alien intelligence could seem easy or almost impossible. Fear of the unknown is one of humankind's most basic traits. Any one of us might feel fear on first meeting an alien, especially if it looked very strange to our eyes. But fear, though understandable, is not necessarily warranted. If we prepare ourselves ahead of time with knowledge and self-confidence, we may be able to ignore our fears long enough to find out what's really going on. Indeed, the results might be astounding. Whether we like it or not, UFOs are telling us that the human race is probably not alone. Instead, we probably belong to a galactic community of intelligence, a cosmic neighborhood. If so, we may be approaching a completely new understanding of life in the universe. Such changes occur only rarely in human history. They can seem disruptive and alarming at first, but in the end, they signal a tremendous opportunity for human growth. If this is the final outcome of the UFO mystery, then UFOs might one day be regarded as one of the best things that ever happened to us.
50 years ago, in June 1947, a very important event took place. The American civil pilot, Kenneth Arnold, a highly esteemed businessman, landed at Akima Airport near Washington, very excited. In fact, a short while earlier, he had seen 9 enormous flying objects circle around, and then disappear into space. Kenneth Arnold's testimony, which, related by a person as appreciated and esteemed as he was, cannot be denied straight out, and by all accounts, it was also Kenneth Arnold who gave the flying discs the name which we use today. That is, that he first made the comparison to flying saucers, hence the terminology. After Arnold's testimony, many other people, up until the moment in which they were silenced from fear of being taken as mad visions, affirmed that they too had seen flying discs in various conditions, flying in the sky and then disappearing. Since then, after 50 years, the flying discs have not abandoned the headlines, and it can be said that daily we receive information from important sources, pilots, radar operators, apart from normal people like ourselves. Notwithstanding this vast material and this publicity, we know little from official sources. The theme of flying discs is still an enigma, a secret. This video, as you will see, is an exception to this point of view. It consists of official conversation between the Italian Giorgio Bongiovanni, a stigmatist and contactee, and Russian high-ranking military officers. They met each other in a secret Russian military base, and there was an exchange of information. The Russian militaries told Giorgio Bongiovanni all that they could about the flying discs. They also gave him photographs, very important items, and Giorgio Bongiovanni spoke to them about his experience. We are therefore dealing with an extremely important document, a unique test which we are pleased to present. Giorgio Bongiovanni was obviously considered by the Russians the right person to have talks with at this level and to divulge such special material.
When the notorious stigmatist and contactee Giorgio Bongiovanni met the then president of the ex-USSR, Mikhail Gorbachev, on the 27th of May 1990, and asked him for permission to spread his message in that country, few, if anyone, would have imagined the developments that were to occur. After a series of encounters with various representatives from scientific, political, and military backgrounds in February 1997, Giorgio Bongiovanni and his group produced one of the most important stages in modern ufology, a meeting with a military team that studied the UFO and extraterrestrial phenomenon on behalf of the Russian government. The historic encounter took place in the city of Tver, 200 kilometers from Moscow, in the Anti-Aircraft Academy of Defense, Red Flag. The civil delegation led by Giorgio Bongiovanni was made up of Professor Costantino Paglialunga, physicist, chemist, and director of the newspaper Non Siamo Soli, We Are Not Alone, with Leonid Kandinsky as interpreter and Giorgio Bongiovanni's wife, Lorella Placidi, who has filmed this exceptional event. The military delegation, headed by the three-star General Gennady Reshetnikov, was composed of Lieutenant Colonel reporting for the General Boris Sidorenko, Major Vyacheslav Boloshik, instructed by General Reshetnikov, in the role of specialist researcher into UFOs and aliens in Russia, and officially instructed by the military press of the Academy, directed by Mikhail Belov. The two delegations were constantly accompanied and assisted by Colonel Vyacheslav Zurkin, special agent of the Russian counter-espionage in Europe for the government agency FSB, known up until a few years ago with the more recognized initials KGB. This meeting took place after 3 long years of negotiations and eventually went ahead thanks to the extraordinary mediation work conducted by the Major of the Russian Armed Forces, Eugenio B., collaborator and personal friend of Giorgio Bongiovanni. But now let's leave the words to the protagonist of this historic event. Before starting our conversation, I would like to tell you that we are one of the most important schools, a military academy, one of the academies dedicated only to defense, where Russians and foreigners alike can study. You should consider yourself a guest on the occasion of the anniversary of the Academy. If the other gentlemen are in agreement, I would like to consider you in this way. I thank you for giving me this great opportunity to be able to speak with you of the important events which are happening throughout the world regarding extraterrestrial presence, in other words, the presence of UFOs. The main attention of the UFOs is above all on the United States of America and on Russia. Above all. Have I understood correctly? Is this the situation? Yes, above all. The attention is on all humanity, but above all, could you please explain? The reason is that the United States and Russia have the most powerful nuclear reserve in the world, and combined with the other 5 superpowers, they, the aliens, are worried. It's my opinion that the nuclear military program is something that attracts the attention of the UFOs. And I believe not only nuclear arms, but the general behavior of the states and the spiritual condition of states, like America and Russia, attracts their curiosity. Yes, I agree. I wish to ask you a question. As a military general, do you believe that these UFOs come from other planets? Are you sure? Are you certain? I think there is an influence. I have great respect for many researchers and scientists' opinion, also from Tver, who made me think that this is real. But above all, I have a personal intuition. I think that these powers do exist and influence us and expect something from us. I have information that the United States and Russian governments have been withholding physical evidence of the existence of flying saucers for 50 years. In your opinion, is this possible? Yes, I think this is possible. I was in service in the far east of Russia, and I took part in a conference about 15 years ago where a lot of foreign material was shown. In the USSR at that time, it was very rare to see any local material about UFOs, but there, I personally know of some witnesses who have been affected by UFOs. Also during space missions. Do you know if the Russian government has assigned any military team to study this phenomenon? There was something on these lines. There are many different studies that the military scientists carry out. In the spiritual message I have received from the Holy Virgin and Jesus Christ, it is said that we are not alone in the universe, and that Jesus Christ not only came here, but has also been to millions and billions of other planets to bring the message of God. Many of these civilizations are much more involved than us because they were born before us and have recognized Christ. That's why they are able to reach our planet. You know everything about me and my experience, as well as I know who stands behind you. I know it very well. We must reveal this reality to the people. I understand that you can do it officially. But it is necessary to take the first step. I can help you. Is there a time limit to do this? Yes. Could you be more precise? In a few years, not many. If I understand correctly, in your opinion, there should be an official statement at government level. Revealing the truth about the visits, and the first step must be taken. Yes, the first step could be taken by Russia, I think. Russia could do it. I would be pleased if Russia did it together with the United States. You know, and I know, you know, that during the Cold War since 1947, the Russian and American governments have agreed on one thing, a pact of silence about the truth regarding the extraterrestrials. This is only my personal opinion, but I think that such a declaration at an official level could provoke the same consequences of a UFO landing at the White House or at the Kremlin.
Alle stesse conseguenze che se un'astronave atterrasse vicino al Cremlino o alla Casa Bianca.
Yes, if we would do it immediately. However, if we prepare people carefully and slowly, people will be able to understand, and it would not provoke any catastrophe. That's why I am asking, if you have important material, it's time to let it out. Even if you didn't do it, extraterrestrials would show themselves in any case. I would like to make a proposal. Perhaps we could prepare some documents from the Tver UFO Center in which we will say that they exist, that these objects arrive.
Nella quale diremo che esistono queste
I thank you very much. With your help, we will publish it. Certainly, I will have it published worldwide by my research colleagues, by the press, in Italy, everywhere. This could help the people. It would definitely help the people. We will do it then. I ask you to do this from my heart, truly, because I do this honestly myself, without any political interest. After the meeting, Bon Giovanni was given a selection of documents regarding UFOs from the Academy archives. Let's take a look at these photos and films that are of great historical importance. This first photo was taken in 1953 by the engineering officer Valentin Ivanovich on the outskirts of Tver, near to the military base where the academy is to be found. The photos are in black and white. This second photo was taken again by the engineering officer Valentin Ivanovich in 1992, close to the Tver military base. These photos led military expert analysts to the assumption that near to Tver there is some kind of dimensional door that is used by spaceships to enter and leave our dimension. This photo was taken by a civilian in 1991 and studied by the Tver Academy experts. The following series of 3 photos were taken between 1991 and 1992. This amazing photograph was taken by some youngsters near to the perimeter of the Tver military base on the 3rd of March 1991. It is part of a series of photographs which have been studied and analyzed by the Tver Military Academy. In this picture, one of the witnesses indicates the strange flying object photographed. This picture shows again the strong rays of light given from these spinning objects. Giorgio Bon Giovanni was given 2 short films where objects appear making strange movements. In the first film, you can see, on your right, 2 objects that materialize, while on the left, another object separates in 2 parts before disappearing. An object appears on the right and again divides in 2. In this short film, taken in 1995, we can note the extremely rapid spins of an object before it disappears. With this film, the series of documents handed to Giorgio Bon Giovanni and his team by General Reshetnikov comes to an end. It is perhaps the first time that an important high-ranking general still in service has left a statement in front of the telecameras, declaring that UFOs and aliens exist, and allowing his officers to make statements and show photographs and films which are so convincing that the notice is then widely spread. The next day, Giorgio Bon Giovanni went into detail over some of the important questions already dealt with Colonel Zurkin of the Russian Secret Service and Lieutenant Colonel Boris Sidorenko. We can notice in particular the expression on Colonel Zurkin's face while answering the question regarding the government's knowledge about the UFO matter. Why do you think the Russian and American government do not say that is confirmed to the public the truth about the existence of UFOs? It's difficult to say why. Let's say they know everything. Can we state this? I think we can. They know everything. It is my personal opinion. But they know. But why don't they say so? Perhaps they don't understand what could be the consequences. Because once people will realize that aliens are peaceful, good and powerful, would not believe in religion anymore. They would believe in the religious message, but they would not recognize the power of religion or even the state. This is the real danger. This is the real truth, that the states and the religions do not want to lose their power, cost what it costs. Now let's listen to the last statement left by Lieutenant Colonel Boris Sidorenko. For us, it has been a great pleasure to spend this time with you, and I wish again to express the opinion of my superior. We have tried to reply frankly to satisfy your curiosity, but there are some aspects that we as military cannot reply to. But I believe some aspects are very limited. Thank you. I will invite you again, and I hope that our collaboration will continue. Thank you. At the end of the interview, Giorgio Bongiovanni handed Colonel Zhukin a written request addressed to the Russian high authorities, asking that they explain clearly about this important and delicate matter in order to prepare humanity for contact with other civilizations from the cosmos. After his return from Russia, Giorgio went to Switzerland and Germany for important meetings in order to present his findings. He informed fellow students and public attending these meetings about information received in Russia. These are the comments of some important investigators. I wish to comment above all about Giorgio Bongiovanni and how he was able to make certain people that don't often speak divulge secret statements. What appears incredible and impresses me is that I have tried to contact the general, but he has never accepted an appointment. Giorgio, instead, is able to find a way to open all the doors, even in Russia.
I have some very strong feelings about having seen this film. I must be honest with you and tell you that I'm a bit angry to see a Russian three-star general speaking out honestly on this subject, when I and many of my colleagues have been desperately trying for many years to get my own government to speak out honestly on this subject.
I'm very impressed by your effort to go to Russia, to go to Tver and to meet General Sheknikov. And if you see the video, you clearly get the impression the general knows much, much more. And much more than he is able to tell you or he is allowed to tell you. And if you look into the face of the KGB man, and if you hear how he is arguing, you clearly get an impression about the inner fight he is struggling between, on one hand, goodwill and the great responsibility and the fear about the human reaction. The material I gave you is very interesting and very impressive, but we all know it is only a snowflake on the tip of an iceberg.
Certainly, General Reshetnikov isn't the only important person in Russia to leave statements or documents which prove the complete recognition of the existence of UFOs in this country. Let's look at a brief account of events regarding this matter. Alexander Kazantsev famous and legendary pioneer of the study of paleoastronautics, that is the study of the alien presence on the Earth in history, discoverer of the Japanese statue Dogu, showing space-suited figures of over 5,000 years ago. This grand man, other than being sure about the UFOs and alien presence and activity on our planet, has declared to Giorgio Bongiovanni that the Russian government and Secret Service have had complete knowledge of this fact for many years.
Ma so
But I know that the military air defense had orders to record every appearance of this type.
avevano un ordine di registrare tutti I fenomeni di questo genere.
Regarding the KGB, I know that many of my cosmonaut friends signed a document in which they say that they would not inform anyone about what they know regarding this subject.
Firmavano un documento
In March 1992, in the space city of Moscow, Giorgio Bongiovanni met with the cosmonaut, now general, Vladimir Kovalyonov. He spoke about seeing in space unidentified objects during one of the Soyuz missions of which he was commander. He illustrated, using sketches, the strange movements of the object, which then divided in two parts, each part continuing to fly by itself. Following this, other films were made showing the extraordinary ability of the UFOs to maneuver. Other Russian cosmonauts have stated to Giorgio Bongiovanni that they believe that we are not alone in this universe, even though they haven't had any direct experience. Among these are the cosmonauts Polishuk and Krikalyov. In October 1992, Giorgio Bongiovanni from the Space Control Center in Moscow spoke directly with the cosmonauts in the orbiting station Mir-1. Although the cosmonauts said that they had not had direct experience, they were convinced that they were not alone in the universe. Greetings from our association. Non siamo soli. And from my spiritual father, Eugenio Siragusa. If, as in this case, the cosmonauts declared that they have not had direct contact with alien objects, documents exist that show that these situations actually happened. The film that we are about to see was taken during a rendezvous with the orbital station. We can see, close to the station, a cigar-shaped luminous object. The film was taken in 1993 by the cosmonauts Musa Maranov and Gennady Stryekelov. The famous German researcher, Professor Michael Hessemann, has investigated into this important document. We can hear his comments in this interview with Non Siamo Soli in Germany, March 1997.
Actually, in June 92 or 93, I'm not sure about the year, cosmonaut Musa Manarov was approaching the Mir station, and on this approach we filmed every object in space, and on the film you can clearly see a cylinder-shaped craft which has a kind of rotating light going around, very similar to the craft filmed in Salida, Colorado in September 1995. And in my opinion, it is without any doubt a muzzle ship, cigar-shaped craft which might have a diameter of about 1 kilometer. I got it through a Russian correspondent of mine, Valery Uvarov, who got it directly from Musamanarov.
This isn't the first time that this kind of object has been sighted in our skies. Let's look at some. In October 1993 in Moscow, an amazing film was given to Giorgio Bongiovanni. The film, made on the 15th of August 1993 in Sebastopol in the Crimea by an amateur cameraman using a Panasonic, shows an object that shoots across the lens and after completing short twists in the sky disappears. As a result of this film and other similar episodes recorded in various parts of the world, a dispute was started. The Panasonic technicians interviewed by the American Discovery Channel program believe that it could be caused by the deformation of the Panasonic telecamera diaphragm. This, not being able to focus on objects too far away, would create a distorted image of a rhomboid shape, apart from the fact that in many sightings the witnesses have declared seeing a spinning top form with the naked eye. There is no doubt that a flying object can be seen in front of the lens. In conclusion, we add that the film has been analysed by various researchers and also the Spanish Military Institute, thanks to the help of the famous Spanish ufologist Juan José Benítez. The result of the complete analysis is that the film has not been faked in any way. During the Zurich International Congress 1997, the Russian professor Boris Shurinov, president of the Russian UFO Center, presented this film taken in 1996 in Moscow. The oval-shaped object reflects the rays of the sun. In the video, reference points of a tree and the roof of a house can be seen. In June 1997, Giorgio is again in Moscow for another meeting regarding his work in the search for witnesses of extraterrestrial facts and the spiritual sense. On the 8th of June, he met with another important figure, a Russian hero, General Vladimir Aksionov. This cosmonaut, who has flown in the Soyuz ship, showed a deep belief and the firm conviction that other forms of life exist in the cosmos and visit us.
Penso che prima di tutto esistono e esistevano da sempre e esistono anche oggi.
Above all, I think that they exist and have always existed. Today, the presence is not important, but what they represent. I believe they can represent different levels, different directions. I am sure there will be contact between us and them. Not only will there be, but there must be, if we want a future for humanity. This future must have a base a lot higher than that of today's, a base of a high-level spirituality. Aksionov declares his conviction that in this moment others even higher than aliens are present on the Earth.
Non sono gli extraterrestri, ma tutti coloro.
Not only the extraterrestrial, but all those who control the life of men and the planetary system.
Lì ci sono diverse gerarchie, diversi livelli.
There are different hierarchies, different levels. Let's say that all are part of a hierarchy created by God. And then everyone has their own objective and part to play. I think the whole universe functions like a balanced system, so complicated that we are not yet able to understand it. I am sure that all in this system have an objective. Have a purpose and an important role. Following this, Giorgio was able to obtain some important photographs taken by the Russian military. The 5th of January 1992 in the space base Polar Star. This center is to be found near the city of Plesetsk and is the launching site furthest north in Russia. The photos, all in black and white, clearly show unidentified objects flying over the missile ramp. Yet another confirmation of the active control of military bases carried out by these civilizations. With this important sighting, we end an intriguing selection of documents from Russia. Also, in America, fascinating sightings are being revealed regarding the presence of extraterrestrials on our planet. We will now take a look at the most recent documents collected from the Discovery spaceship mission. During the mission STS-21 of the 14th of March 1989, the ship's doctor, astronaut James Buckley, let slip the words, "We still have the alien spacecraft under observance." A phrase that leaves little to the imagination. Let's listen to it.
Houston, this is Discovery. We still have the alien spacecraft under observance. Houston, this is Discovery. We still have the alien spacecraft under observance.
All the following films were distributed by the American researcher William Hamilton. The images that you are watching concern the STS-80 mission of the 1st of December 1996. In the researcher's opinion, the film shows the movements of at least 6 alien spaceships close to the Earth's atmosphere. Space rubbish or ice particles would not be able to complete the maneuvers completed by the object of light in the film. The Discovery is positioned above Asia, and on Earth there is a violent thunderstorm. The flashes that can be seen are caused by lightning. Suddenly, from the right, an object appears, and almost at the same time another from the left. The first object, as soon as it enters in the Earth's atmosphere, increases rapidly its luminosity. Researchers believe that this phenomenon is caused by the contact between the atmospheric particles and the spaceship's electromagnetic field. On the center of the screen, suddenly, from nowhere, a brightly lit object appears, while the first object to appear follows its path towards a group of another 3 bright objects in a triangular formation. And it's towards these objects that the Discovery telecamera zooms into. At the end of the film, the telecamera returns inside the spaceship. Hamilton declared that never before have we had such positive evidence of intelligent maneuvers orbiting Earth. The experts are of the same opinion. Jim Dilitoso, the Professor Jack Kasher from Omaha University in Nebraska and Professor Michael Hesseman, who gave the films to Giorgio Bongiovanni. The Space Shuttle mission STS-51A of November 1984 had the job of recovering two defective satellites, the West Star the Sixth and the Palabar B2, and then bring them down to Earth. As the shuttle closes in on West Star the Sixth, the camera on board shows a clear metal ball that comes from above to then disappear towards the right. In the background, you can see the Earth. The report between light and shade changes during the movement of the object and corresponds to that which is visible on the Earth. This evidence that shows a solid object which reflects light. Its movements leave one to assume in something guided intelligently and exclude the possibility of a satellite. With this film, we close the report of documents coming from Russia and the United States. They will not be the last. As a start, it is comforting. The truth, with more and more clearness, is being disclosed.
The extraordinary evidence that you have seen, in particular the documents that have been produced by both the Russian and American astronauts, make you understand the enormous problem we are looking at. There is ample documentation that cannot be ignored. I am absolutely sure that after having seen all this material, you will agree that the UFO problem is no longer an enigma as it may have appeared till now. The documented material that we have available is complete and serves to show that the problem is one of utmost importance, which we must face in the near future, a subject that is worth studying in order to enter into everyone's consciousness.